Glad to have you join us on another interesting episode of Business and Economy, the program that helps you to hype your business and economy profile. I am Ile Emeje. United Nations Deputy Secretary General Hajia Amina Muhammad has said that the world is at a critical moment to deliver on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Hajia Amina Muhammad, who stated this during a virtual meeting with European Parliament Vice President Mr. Heidi Hautala, stressed that SDG goals are vital for a recovery that leads to a greener, more inclusive economies and resilient societies. Today on this edition, the head, Sustainable Development Goals, and the International Health Partners Coordination, Dr. Omede Ogu, is in our studio to discuss the direction of the SDG's impact on the performance of the country's economy after the business news. Stay with us. While flagging off the wet season farming in Katsina State, Central Bank Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele called on the Nigerian youths to engage their talents and technological tools in stimulating farm productivity. Mr. Emefiele reiterated that the Apex Bank will resist attempts by those seeking to continually import maize into the country, adding that the Nigerian farmers have what it takes to meet up with the maize demand gap of over 4.5 million metric tons in the country. He further noted that the bank's intervention was in line with its mandate and aims at ensuring price stability and improved availability of staple food items. The governor urged all stakeholders to sustain the current efforts to galvanize agricultural production to meet Nigeria's growing population. Ile Emeje, ASO Television News. Welcome. As I mentioned earlier, our guest is the head, Sustainable Development Goals and International Health Partners Coordination, Dr. Omede Ogu. Doctor, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you, Emeka. Nice to meet you.
All right. The Millennium Development Goals Declaration by the United Nations was launched in year 2000 and subsequently adopted as Sustainable Development Goals in year 2015. To what extent can we say that the objectives of these SDGs have been achieved in Nigeria?
Well, thank you, Emeka. I was expecting you to really give the opportunity to explain what SDGs really means.
Okay.
It's a development agenda that has been instituted for every country. Not just developing country, like as in the case of MDGs, and has contributors from countries, consultants, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, and the general public. So the model for SDG is far an expansion of MDG in terms of scope, in terms of implementation, in terms of duration, in terms of need, and in terms of inputs. So SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, is a development agenda for every country.
Every country or?
Every country. Know that word, for every country.
A lot of people
Nigeria
will think it's just for developing countries.
No, that is MDG.
Okay.
Millennium Development Goal. In terms of the structure, they are also different. So that clarity from the beginning is good to establish that clarity so that people don't get misinformed and then they'll know what really SDG is all about. So being a development agenda, for Nigeria, as a member of the United Nations, as a signatory to the United Nations, when it was first launched in 2015, conditionalities and processes and procedures were imputed in the session of the UN that launched the goals. And all the intentions were grafted into the 17 goals. For Nigeria, I will give them a pat in at the back because of the expansive nation, and because of changes in government, and because of different interests and goals. Well, the performance is considerable. I won't give it a score. It's considerable, but we still have a long way to go.
A lot of people are yet to be abreast with the programs of the Sustainable Development Goals. Can you expatiate on the basic or the summary of the objectives of this goal?
Yeah, the objective is economic. That is, the bottom line is that the objective is economic, is developmental. And what is expected of all the countries that are signatory to is to adopt the SDG as an economic agenda. There's no need to set up any other agenda because it is systemic, it is universal, and it rubs on every sector of the economy. So if you weigh our economy, the Nigerian economy, vis-a-vis comparatively to other economies, you can assess it yourself.
Looking
Either
at
from the background of the, what do you call it now? Gross domestic
GDP,
the GDP.
gross domestic product,
Yes, so product.
the GDP.
Either from the position of GDP or from the position of yearly growth.
Okay, looking at a comparative check on the various sectors of the economy, can you say that Nigeria has achieved a lot on the implementation of these goals?
Yes. A more friendly assessment score I will use is that Nigeria is on course. Nigeria is not off course. The principal organization or government organization that's supposed to drive the SDG is called the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs. That is the umbrella organization from the government perspective that drives the implementation of the SDGs. And so far, they are doing very well. Within this year alone, they have had a cross-sectional sectorial engagement meeting. And in that meeting, they were able to launch a 10-year SDG implementation plan. And that has been sent out to all of the sectors, be it public, private, the non-governmental organizations that are either international or local initiatives, to adopt and then see how they can make cases from the plan and then implement at the various levels.
Some development experts are of the opinion that the Millennium Development Goals, which was adopted to the SDGs in 2015, did not achieve a lot, or so much, so to say. But they are also of the opinion that the advent of the coronavirus pandemic impacted or affected the slow pace of the implementation of the SDGs. How do you react to this?
Yes. To avoid confusion, I want you to stick to SDG.
Okay.
I want you to limit your scenario. Bring in MDGs, because what is on ground now is SDG.
Okay.
And it's a departure from MDG. Let me give you an example. The SDG has about, the MDG has about 8 goals.
Yeah, 8 agenda.
And then about 21 indicators that are tied to targets.
Yeah.
But the SDG has a total of 17 goals.
17 goals.
And about 169 targets that are tied to indicators.
So much.
You understand? So you can see the difference. So I want you to limit your analysis to MDG and then focus on SDG. That being said, Nigeria, I've said earlier, is on course, and in terms of specific performance along the 7 goals, which borders on poverty, hunger, water and sanitation, and all of those to the end of the 17, where you talk about partnership and all of that. Nigeria has fared well and is on course.
Okay. A few African countries are said to have benefited a lot from this program, the SDGs. Countries like Ghana and Morocco, just to mention a few. What do you think these countries did above Nigeria to have recorded these huge successes?
Okay, yeah. Like Morocco has about 7-year plan
for the SDG program.
SDG that is fully costed, and all the indicators are properly weighed, and then the targets are also grafted into the country economic agenda. For Nigeria, a similar approach that links us to the experience of Morocco is, or Malaysia, is the 10-year implementation plan that the OSAP SDG launched this year. So, and what that means is pulling resources along those specific years of the 10 years, and then see how the resources can be invested into area of need, and then produce an outcome that could be seen and felt by all.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me try to be sentimental a little. One of the focus of the sustainable development goal is on women, helping women to start their business, to grow their businesses in those countries concerned. And what can you say of Nigerian women in the area of maybe taking up their businesses and growing their businesses, as the case may be?
Okay. Sorry, before I go to women, let's look at the sources where, funds or finances are expected to roll in for the SDG.
Okay.
A leading sector is private sector. And private sector has been allocated a all high 40%. Very closely to that is the public sector that have been allocated an estimated total fund expected for SDG implementation, 32%. That is about 8% lower than the private sector.
Yeah.
And then very close to that is what we call ODAs. That is official development assistance that comes in form of foreign aids, either as a form of foreign direct investment or as a form of foreign investment institution.
Okay.
You understand? Okay. It's been allocated a total of about 17%. I wouldn't want to go into the others. So 17%, this is 40%, this is 32%, and this is 17%. It will be extremely difficult for any country to achieve SDG without proper plan for these three category areas, because pulling them together forms about over 70% of all the funds that is required to implement. So a simple assessment of the country is to tell you, where is the private sector in Nigeria?
Okay.
What is the position of the public sector? What are the foreign direct investment, or what are the foreign investment institutions that are present in the country? Simple analysis of these three category areas will tell you exactly where the country is.
Okay.
For women, now let me go to your question now. For women, a tipping point for development, even in all of the SDGs, is power. When I say power, I mean electricity. Yes, energy. Why it is a tipping point is because it has critical linkages to all of the sectors of the SDGs. From the perspective of money, power drives mobile money.
Power drives mobile money. By way of internet or technology?
Technology. And it has been estimated globally that emerging economies has over 2 billion people that do not have a form of check-ins or savings account. 2 billion people.
No
in
account of any form.
They don't have account. They don't have bank account.
Why?
Either,
What
they don't have bank account. I'm just telling you, I'm giving you an information of what exists. If you do a critical analysis of that, about 57 Nigerians, I mean adults, do not have access to banking facility.
Well, 57% or 1,000?
87 million people, adults in Nigeria, do not have either what we call a current account or savings account.
Any account of?
Any account at all. And a bulk of these adults, rural women. Rural women have been cut off from incentive from that comes from bank in terms of financial product or financial facilities.
Or services.
And services. And if it happens to women, you know, the girls follow. But what has also further compounded that is displaced women. It's difficult to move back to a very stable economic situation when you are cut off from the financial institutions. So that has been the problem. So solution to that is instituting financial programs and financial products that exposes more and more of women and girls to opportunities that exist. That's the solution, nothing more, nothing less.
The
Fortune and Times forum that happened about 3 to 4 years ago clearly set out these priorities. And this priority that exists in SDG was a major recommendation from the Times and Forum. Recommendation.
The federal government has been at the forefront of financial inclusion for over the years, not just this administration, from one administration to the other. Can we say that it is the problem of appraisal or the problem of monitoring and evaluation of these policies that has led to or that has deprived some of these women, like you mentioned, from accessing financial products and services?
Yes. Remember my scoring statement. The government is on course, and a lot of factors come into play. It's not their exclusion. The major thing is the exclusion from the mobile money.
Okay.
The major, like I told you, if you don't have an account, it's difficult to operate the mobile money. Okay. And the mobile money will not work when the driver, which is power or energy, is not there.
All right. We'll take a short break now and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Thank you.
If you just joined us, we are looking at the impact of the Sustainable Development Goals on the Nigerian economy. And my guest is Dr. Omede Ogudi, Head, Sustainable Development Goals and the International Health Partners Coalition, coordination, so to say. And Doctor, before we went on break, you were looking at women participation in the program of the Sustainable Development Goals. Given your analysis, how do you think women can be involved in the financial inclusion in order to enjoy the benefits from the program?
Yes, is for women from local initiative, non-governmental organization, faith-based organization, women professional group, to come together in an assemblage form of calling, and then create advocacy group that specifically have on that agenda the development and institutionalization of financial inclusion program. And then where financial facility or tools or product exist that are too difficult to manage, particularly for the rural women, there should be a step-down version, a call for a step-down version of such products and tools. Claire?
Okay. If you look at the SDG goals, you look at goal number 8. Goal number 8 emphasizes on decent work and development of the economy. Coming home to Nigeria now and given the situation of the global downturn and the high rate of unemployment facing the country, what is your take on this?
Well, it depends on what you mean by decent work, because even in developed economies, it's the blue and brown collar jobbers that earn higher than the white collar jobbers.
Even when we look at the two put together, and the unemployment situation facing
it has to be an
country.
even distribution. I mean, create mechanisms that stimulate more and more women to be educated, either, what do you call it now, formally or informally. Whichever way is education, okay? Educate them. Women should also be educated on how to access job opportunities. I remember some time ago, World Bank has a program that has to do with, creating stimulants, more specifically for women and children, on opportunities for job creation and job sustainability. So for such programs that have happened in the country in the past, there should be a revisit, a review, and then a developing concept around those, and then meeting the needs of what it could be to encourage decency in job and then reduce unemployment. Okay,
going forward, what measures would you suggest for the realization of these sustainable development goals in Nigeria?
Focus on the public sector, focus on the private sector, and focus on the ODAs, that is Official Development Agenda. This is just 3 out of 5 major recommended UN areas of funding for SDGs. Meeting these 3 is more
on the part of the people, for the benefit of those that are watching us.
Yes, because there are, within the SDGs, there are provisions for assessment and reassessment of needs.
Okay.
And then using that need to project for funding requirement and then implementation.
And before we round off, how do you see the SDG programs reducing the unemployment problem in Nigeria? How?
The potential is very, very high.
Okay.
If well implemented, the potential is very, very high.
Okay.
It could, like I told you, it can just become Nigeria economic agenda. That's all. And that will mean looking very critically at those 17 goals and implementing those 17 goals to score about 60 to 70% of them. Provide jobs.
Okay. And for the unemployed, particularly those waiting over the years for white-collar job, where is their place in the SDG program?
The SDG is their SDG. The SDG is for all, leaving nobody behind.
Okay.
Nobody. Even the disabled.
How can they access some of these programs?
It's everywhere.
Everywhere in Nigeria?
It's
You
everywhere.
mean it's at every local government?
Even at the micro level, at the family level, is there. The only thing is, with the 10-year implementation plan launched by the OSAD SDG, I believe every stakeholder picking from that plan and then instituting various areas of need provide comfort for everybody. The intention of SDG is such that nobody should be left behind. It's a vow. Nobody should be left behind.
Okay, so what's your general advice for them?
The general advice is private sector, public sector, mechanisms for engagement and funding through ODS, the non-governmental organization, the philanthropist, come together.
Okay. Private sector and public sector, the philanthropist organization should come together in order to achieve the sustainable development goals and to improve the economy of Nigeria. That is our package on today's edition of Business and Economy. We have been speaking with the head of Sustainable Development Goals and the International Health Partners Coordination, Dr. Omede Ogu. Doctor, we really appreciate your presence in today's edition of the program.
Being here.
And to you, our esteemed viewers, we wish you a great weekend. But ensure you take personal responsibility against the spread of COVID-19 pandemic for a safe economy. Have a nice weekend.